So we reached the point where we're putting all the animals that we've been working on into the game, integrating them into the full game system. And as we do that, one of the big questions is, how densely populated is this world? Now, Yellowstone is often called the Serengeti of North America because it has so many big animals and at such amazing densities. There's just so many animals living in this space. And you can see, lots of animals when you go to Yellowstone, of course. But you can also, if you go hiking into the wilderness, as we did last year, you can often go quite a while before you see an animal or between sightings. So we're trying to strike the right balance between accuracy, that this is not so dense that you trip over an animal every couple minutes, and still satisfying gameplay so you don't have to spend half an hour running around before you see anything, somewhere in between there. And so to do this, we're using these spawning systems that we've set up to control how and where and when animals appear in the game. So why don't we take a look at these? Here, for example, is the elk spawning system. Now this uses a method to create persistent animals. So once they spawn at the beginning, when you start playing the Amethyst mountain level, they will persist over the course of your time on that map. Even if you save and reload and come back later, same animals will be there. If you kill one, it won't be there when you come back either. So they're not only persistent, but we can set up the composition of each flock. Flock is the kind of the game term or the software term for creating these groups of animals that have these behaviors of sticking together. So not all elk flocks, elk herds are the same. Of course, they vary quite a bit over the course of the year. They vary in size, they vary in composition. And so we've got this tool to spawn them and to set a lot of that information. So looking here at, this is when I set up the elk flock, it's species is elk. Looking down here to the compositions, that's the key thing here. So right now in months, it's 0. We can specify which months it appears in. So now the other key thing here is subtypes. So the type is elk, and the subtypes are the types of animals, types of elk that appear in this herd. So we can open this up, and we've got elk cow set, and we've got a range of numbers. So they're not all going to always be the same. There'll be some range when it spawns. Somewhere between 15 and 23 cows will be in this herd. And then we have the damage ratio, or the flip side of the health ratio. So we can set at the beginning, they will be either full health, no damage, or up to 20% damage or 80% health. So this will vary, of course, over the seasons as well. In late winter, the elk are weaker because they've had to survive a hard winter with less food. And so these numbers will be lower. That's actually already working that way in 2.7, and we'll have it work this way again as well. So we have a bunch of cows, then we have a bunch of calves as well, fewer calves because some of them have been killed by prey over the summer. But there are some left. And then the spikes, these are yearling males, yearling bulls. So they're not fully developed into mature bulls. They look a lot like cows, except they have these antlers that are still small and spiky, but coming along. So there's usually a few of those in the herd, so we've set that at ranging from 2 to 5. And then for this kind of big harem herd, the bull elk, there's one of them. There's only one bull elk in a herd like this. And now the fall is a tough time for bull. Although they've had a good summer getting lots to eat, they're also if they're the resident bull in a herd, they're being challenged by other bulls who would like to become the resident herd in the resident bull in that herd. So I'm going to actually adjust this. So none of them are perfect full health, and they might drop down to having 70% health, 30% damage, because those fights do weaken them. So that adds up to roughly 30 and a bit of animals in this herd. But there are other types of herds as well. There's, in the fall, there's these bull elk herds. And these are small groups. So here you can see, I would call this bull herd in the upper Lamar. It's got one subtype, the bull, and the number is from 2 to 5. So these are small herds of bull elks, just some bachelor bulls who hang out together, And they often hang out near a big harem herd. So they can periodically go over and challenge the resident bull in that herd and see if they can win it over. So we've got a bunch of those set up in the game world as well. Now, that's the most common type of persistent animal, but we also do have stranger wolves. We have packs of these stranger wolves. So here's the Lamar Canyon pack. And so that's for persistent animals, but we also have this other method of spawning for animals that are not persistent, that they are basically spawned based on proximity to the player. And this gives us a lot of control over the density of these animals, and lets us really tune that quite a bit to have enough animals to make the game interesting and exciting, but not so dense that it seems, like downtown New York City. So we've set up a couple so far here. We'll be adding more as we get them ready. So the coyote here is the first one, of course. And so we've got two numbers here. We've got a couple sets of numbers here. The minimum and maximum spawning distance. This is how far from the player do they get spawned into the world. And we've set that at somewhere between 200 and 1,000 meters. 1,000 probably more than necessary. Let's change that to like 350 to 600 maybe. So we've also got this minimum and maximum distance between spawns, and that just sets a distance limitation on how often the animals spawn. You have to travel certain distances before there's a chance of seeing another one spawn. And that'll really help us control the density to make sure that the world doesn't get too full, too crowded with animals. So we got these set up for the coyote, the cougar, the hare. We'll be adding the grizzly bear and the other animals. So now we can switch to the look at the game map. So we've got the pink dots are the elk herds. The black dots are the stranger wolf packs. This is kind of their core pack, but there's also these smaller dots, and those are the patrols. Several wolves patrolling their territory, basically looking for you to see if you're intruding and if they need to deal with you to get you out of their territory. And now this cluster down here, so in the game, this is actually where my wolf is. So the smaller red dots are all these second group of animal spawnings, the hare, the coyote, the cougar, the grizzly, all these. And those are only spawned in vicinity of my wolf, because if you spawn them way, 3 kilometers away, you're not going to see them. It just, slows down the game to have animals spawning where you can't even see them. So they're all clustered around here, around me. So I suppose you'd like to see how these look in the game. Let's take a look here. We're overhauling the floating scents, so that's why you can see them here in the normal view. That'll be fixed soon. So we're chasing the herd. Problem with being a wolf, it's hard to get that close to the herd sometimes. So we're going to switch over here. Here we go. Here's the herd. Look at that. There's a bull elk right there. And taking a break, since now they've gotten some distance from my wolf. Who else we got here? Obviously got some calves in here in the herd. And where are the spikes? There should be some spikes in here. Here are the spikes. Well, that's not what you like to see. I guess this is why you test things before you make a video about them. Something's not working with the spikes. We'll have to investigate that. How about those small herds of bull elk? Here we go. Yep, just 4 guys hanging out on a sunny day. Not too worried about wolves. Should we try to get closer? Here we go. Okay. Oh!